So we got Dom, we have Enzo here. We're going to be talking about
So,
dietary fat. These
yeah.
guys are very knowledgeable. They know what they're talking about. We all believe similar things, and so I'm going to start off by just sharing my screen. I think this is a good start to this, just talking about dietary fat and chronic disease prevalence and seed oil consumption. So if you actually look right here, I'll zoom it in a little bit. So this is a good graph I found on Heart and Soil on their website, showing that really it started in 1960, rather, I guess, really like a lot. But not seed
Yeah.
oil started in the 1900s, early 1900s. They get to about 1960, seed oil consumption just goes through the roof. And then you kind of look at this chart right here, chronic disease prevalence in America. Go look at 1960, it just shot up, and that's obviously from 2020. So I think this just shows a very good correlation on what we're going to be talking about, because it shows there's not a lot of studies out there showing this, but I think we can break down why. And if one of you guys want to start up and just kind of start talking about whatever you guys think in terms of saturated fat and what you should be consuming dietary fat wise, one of you guys can start it up and just start talking about it.
Yeah, I'll start quickly. Like, what did you say about like the association with seed oils? Did you say like,
Chronic disease prevalence, so like
yeah?
obesity, insulin resistance, metabolic dysfunction, metabolic syndrome, all that stuff.
See, when I first started getting into like eating healthier and stuff, I this is like one of like the first things I looked at was like seed oils, and I was trying to like cut that out immediately because I was looking at things similar to this, and it makes a lot of sense. You're not going to find like direct correlated studies that just say, okay, seed oils are the worst thing for you. They cause straight cancer, heart attacks, all this stuff. It's like
Yeah,
a little more deep than that. You kind of have to make the assumption, not even the assumption, but like make the correlation a little bit on your own
yeah,
from the things I've read. But in terms of like dietary fat, it's clear that like there's not high quality grass fed tallow in all of these ultra processed foods compared to seed oils, which are in
yeah,
every single ultra processed food. I think the biggest thing is why are seed oils specifically when it comes to like dietary fat in every ultra processed food? Like it's literally every processed food. It's like so easy to eat and it's so easy to overconsume. And I think that's one of like the biggest main reasons why like that chronic disease prevalence is like completely skyrocketed because like none of these foods that exist within like the last 20, 30 years existed then.
for
Like
sure.
you couldn't buy a Little Debbie's oatmeal cookie filled with whatever is in there, soybean oil, grapeseed
Yeah.
oil, whatever today. And like it just makes no sense to me on why people think that that's like a good source or like healthy for you.
Yeah,
That's kind of like a brief little
I
statement I
think
have.
specifically like my main problem with seed oils is just how much omega 6 linoleic acid is in seed oils. It's just completely disproportional to the amount of linoleic acid that we would have gotten in our natural diets, right? And when you just chronically consume these oxidized seed oils, you're just ingesting such an unstable fat that's going to cause a lot of oxidative stress inside your body. So I think that's the main reason why seed oils are bad. I think just like what it does to your fat profiles in your body, right? You're going to have excess omega 6, which is going to lead you to more lipid peroxidation. And also, just a lot of the times, the seed oils that you're eating, like the seed oils that are in a lot of products or seed oils that are fried, like fried foods in restaurants and stuff like that, the fat is already oxidized, right? And when you eat an oxidized fat, especially when it's PUFA, it's toxic to the body, creates a lot of oxidative stress.
For sure. And I guess we'll kind of bring it to the start here. Is like, where did this start? Where did obviously we looked at where it started, but saturated fat has been consumed for generations on generations before us. And that's a very appealing thing to me. A lot of people like to just push that off, like epidemiology, but it really, or just how we evolved as humans. And I think what we evolved with is probably the best food for us, whether you like it or not. Because you actually look at saturated fat, has beneficial fat soluble nutrients. You get K2, you get vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K2. All those nutrients are extremely nutrient dense, or extremely beneficial for your body, sorry. And saturated fat actually comes in very high nutrient dense foods. And I think if you actually look at what saturated fat is actually doing to the body, it's doing only good. It's only becoming bad when you're having these omega-6 fatty acids or seed oils that oxidize and pretty much cause it to end up in your mitochondria, your cardiolipin. It ends up in the membranes of your fat cells, and it pretty much shuts down lipolysis, makes you insulin resistant. We can look at a lot of good studies on rats. Also have another image to show that I guess I'll show right now. This is kind of cool. So I'll explain why I'm using a thing on a rats, because a lot of people kind of hate on this. So where is this at? Okay,
I
right
think the
here.
rat studies are
Rat
very
studies.
relevant.
Yeah, so they gave this rat cottonseed oil exclusively, and they were 60% of their normal size, so they were way smaller than their normal size. They live on average 555 days, and they only received polyunsaturated fats. And then you look at this rat, it had only butter fat, and it lived double the amount of time. It was healthy on all biomarkers, and it was at its normal size. And you start looking at actually what was going on in this study, and you start looking at the insulin resistance. It was showing that at the level of the fat cell, it was making it insulin resistant, and which is kind of weird. You actually look, you think it's hyperglycemia that pretty much makes something insulin resistant or a fat cell insulin resistant, but it's not the case. And that makes sense in terms of people. When you look at people in today's society, they're metabolically dysfunctional and they're insulin resistant, and they have all these metabolic biomarkers that are just terrible. And we can actually go look at healthy user bias as well and talk about that, and how modern medicine is kind of eradicating what actually is true in terms of what is actually a good biomarker for a human. But this is a really good study just to show that a rat that was receiving saturated fat exclusively was extremely healthy. And down to the fat cell in the mitochondria, this is corresponding to every living organism on the planet. Everyone has a mitochondria, everyone has a fat cell, and you begin to understand that rat studies are how we do a lot of things, and some stuff in rat studies doesn't work in humans, I understand, but at the level of the fat cell, it's very similar for every living thing on this earth. Everyone has a mitochondria, everything has fat cells, so I think that's a very good study to look at in terms of what seed oils are doing to your fat cell. And yeah, Dom, you can take it off, or whoever wants to.
I like what Enzo said about the linoleic acid, because that's like very true. I think it just kind of shows seed oil specifically, like the more linoleic acid you have, there's more problems in like your human biology.
For sure.
Like I know that I know that truly from personal experience too. Like and when it comes down to like saturated fat, like butter, for example, like I don't know when you guys started getting into health and all that, but like how did you explain? Not, it's more of like a rhetorical question. Like our parents, for example, like that generation has completely been sold like a complete lie. Like for example, like when I first started getting into like health, and I was eating a lot of eggs and beef at the time, like probably way more than I am now. Like their immediate thought is like you're gonna have a heart attack, you're gonna die. Like that's just like I feel like everyone has had that experience, and
Yeah.
it's like it's purely like brainwashed. Because if you look at like I won't even go back to like the ancestors things, but like if you go back to like the early 1900s, like I don't know about the quality of the food people were having then, but like raw milk was normalized. It was milk in general wasn't like frowned upon. Butter and like duck fat and tallow were used way more than they are today. There was just a lot more saturated fat in the diet, and there was less disease. There was less obesity, diabetes, cancer specifically. Like I want to hone in on that more. Like I'm not gonna like make a accumulation, but like cancer is like definitely not driven by like saturated fat
No.
specifically. Like it's just it goes to say like it's really just as simple as we consumed a lot of saturated fat back in the day, but we didn't have a lot of disease. And there's obviously a lot of other factors, but like clearly something that got added to the human diet and like to the human world modernly is causing the problem or a problem for sure.
For
So
sure.
that's
Yeah.
kind of what I wanted to add on.
Something that I don't see a lot of people talking about is also the deuterium levels within seed oils, because like the way that it's made is like when you like when you use all of these industrial solvents, right, and keep refining a product. I forget the name of the exact effect, but essentially, the more you keep refining and evaporating stuff and stuff like that, the lighter isotopes, so the lighter hydrogen evaporates first, and then the deuterium concentrates, right? So, seed oils are also going to be, because they go through this heavy refining process, right? Of the bleaching, the deodorizing, the refining, right? It's constantly refined. The oil itself is going to accumulate deuterium, which, if for the listeners don't know, it can accumulate in the cells and jam up your mitochondrial motors because you shoot up light hydrogen, right? And deuterium is twice as heavy. So I think that's also another thing that is wrong with seed oils that a lot of people don't talk about.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we'll talk about a little bit about cardiolipin and maybe the mitochondria, because this is actually kind of corresponds to what you're saying. Is when you actually look. Okay, actually, we'll talk about visceral adipose tissue. This is actually a good one. Sorry. So visceral adipose tissue. If you look right here, so week 0, they took this person on a terrible seed oil diet. They were eating polyunsaturated fats, ultra processed foods, and they had 5.6 pounds of visceral fat in their abdomen, which is your inner subcutaneous fat. So that's your inner abdomen fat. And they cut out all seed oils over a 35-week period. They got it all the way down to 1.8 pounds. This just shows that when you cut seed oils, they aren't just, you can't just check serum levels of seed oils. Serum level is pretty much in the blood. And you can't look at that and correspond that to cardiovascular outcomes because that isn't being accumulated over a long period of time. It's just in the blood. So when you cut out the actual real inflammatory marker of seed oils, which is your visceral adipose tissue, because visceral adipose tissue releases C-reactive proteins, cytokines, 4-H&E, oxalums, and they pretty much oxidize and pretty much become prone to oxidative stress. So they're pretty much going to bind to or attack cells with free radicals and make that cell dysfunctional, practically. And the more buildup of this, the more C-reactive protein you have in the body, which is inflammation. And this is just a great marker to show that we have to be looking at visceral adipose tissue levels of people that are intaking seed oils or are sick, because you can't look at serum levels. I can show another study that I have in here as well showing that you can't look at that because it doesn't, they looked at serum levels and there was no corresponding variables that showed any negative effects in the blood. But in that visceral adipose tissue, it shows that it is inflammatory and terrible for your body. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to show there. That's a really cool study.
I didn't really know about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess right
So
here, I want to show this as well. So this is a study showing that pretty much only 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy. And I was talking about the general health user bias. And what that actually means is that in a world of 90% of people that are sick, they're using those numbers of what they think are healthy. And you look at tribes like the Katavans, the Hadza, those tribes have different markers, and I would actually call them healthy. But they use general health user bias to promote these biomarkers and saying they're healthy, but they're actually not. So this just shows that the metabolic health in the United States is terrible, and no one's metabolically healthy, and a very little sum of people are. So I thought that was cool.
I agree. Joey, do you think like when it comes to, I guess what I'm trying to ask is like something actionable for people that are listening. Like, what do you think is one of the like most important things someone can do in this like realm of this topic we're talking about to like sort of improve their health? Like you can say like cut out seed oils, but I'm more talking like specifically like cut out seed oils and eat how much more saturated fat and like what types and like how much should that look like for like the average person who clearly isn't metabolically healthy? Because like everyone's different. Some people aren't getting any outside exposure. Some people are like super active, maybe like too active. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say down to your satiety. I mean, that might sound weird. I'll explain why. So I think it's down to how you feel. So if you eat burgers every day, I don't think you always need to be tracking your calories. I think you just should see how you feel, and maybe track your calories for a week. See how much calories you're getting. See how much you're eating, and understand, okay, I feel good doing this. I'm getting good lifts in. I feel good. I'm moving good. I feel like you just feel good. You know how that feels. Both of you guys do. And I think just understanding that you have to you can't outrun your biology as a human, and you have to understand that you have to focus on eating foods that grow from the earth and the foods that we've evolved with. So red meat, fruit, or ruminant animals, fruit, maybe a little bit of vegetables if you want. And I think when you just start focusing on that baseline, you understand that humans feel better this way and they evolved this way, and you can continue to better yourself this way. So I would just say down to how you feel, for sure.
Okay. I got it. I like that.
Yeah, I'd say, I guess my answer to the question is just like, in my opinion, the more the merrier, right? So, just switching from cutting out processed foods, and then just cooking all of your food in stable saturated fats like butter and tallow and stuff like that. And in my opinion, the only source of linoleic acid in the diet should be the linoleic acid that is present in beef and butter and stuff, because it has some linoleic acid, right?
Doesn't eggs have that too?
Yeah, eggs as well. I would also recommend also the corn and soy free eggs, because
Yeah. I just tried those the other day with fire.
because they have less linoleic acid
Yeah.
also. But yeah, I'd say like the more saturated fat, the merrier. The only exception that I'd make to like PUFA is omega-6, because it kind of acts differently in the body.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for
I mean
sure.
omega-3, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, where was I going to go with this now? Yeah, so there's actually a lot of good studies showing that seed oils actually mess up your satiety as well. So, yeah, I think saturated fat's going to be it. Okay, so we can talk about LDL. So seed oils do affect your satiety. So here's another example, and I can't break it down fully here, but anytime someone goes to Chipotle, I was talking to my brother about this, they have decent ingredients. You go to Chipotle, you eat food, you feel like shit. But then you go home and you make a meal without seed oils and have the same exact meal, you don't feel the same way. And you're like, why is this? I think it's down to the seed oil content, and maybe a little bit due to how they're using the food and how they're preparing it, maybe. But I think it just shows that if you even listen to your own anecdote, which I think is very important, you can understand that, okay, I've had Chipotle many times and I don't feel very good. I end up on the toilet and I feel like I can't eat anything, and I just, like, it's not a good thing to do. Like, it doesn't feel good. And okay, now I kind of want to shift the argument over to LDL. And I kind of gave this idea to Enzo the other day. I was talking about how I think LDL is like wood. You can build a house with wood. You can build a shed with wood. Similar to LDL, it gets pulled into situations in the body, and it's always been there. And it's been useful for antioxidant different things, like getting pulled into help areas of the body. And I think you start realizing that LDL is like wood, because you can be completely fine until a fire comes, your house burns down. It's the same thing with inflammation. It's like until something comes in and starts that fire, you don't, yeah, that's the causation. It's something starting the fire with LDL, because LDL has always been there. It's never become oxidized, or LDL has never become oxidized when you're just having exclusive saturated fat. And I think that comes very prevalent when you actually start looking into the data and listening to people that know what they're talking about. And that's my own opinion on that. What do you think, Don? What do you think about LDL?
I watched a lot of Paul Saladino podcasts last year, specifically talking about LDL, and I've taken so many notes about it, and I can't refer to like the exact wording of what he was trying to say, but it's like kind of like the analogy you made about like the firefighter. It's like it's not the main problem. It's not like it's so much more deeper than that. And like that's like like what really like triggered me to like get passionate about this is like I was eating like 6 eggs a day. Like this was when I was like more into like being like a gym bro, and I was just trying to like get quality protein in. I was eating a lot of beef, a lot of eggs, and like my parents are like so concerned for me, and like they're like, that's so like your like it's just LDL, and I'm like, how bad can this be for you? Because like these are like the best foods you can eat, because like that's what I heard at the time. And then like I went to the doctors and I got my LDL and like my total cholesterol checked, And at the
Yeah.
time, mine was really high. I wasn't having that much fruit at the time. I think my total cholesterol was like above 300. And then I'm like, shit, well, that's high. That's what everyone tells you
Yeah.
is like you're gonna be put on a statin. You're gonna have a heart attack. Like that's bad for your health. So then I did so much digging, and I like specifically went to Paul Saladino's like content because at the time that's just like who I was watching the most, and that's who I got the most information from. And like
Sure.
what he was explaining was just like it's so much deeper than just a number because from my understanding, I want to make sure I'm like on the right track when I say this, but like your is your LD doesn't your LDL play like a role with like in your liver
Uh.
specifically? Like it's like your whole body is like it's like a whole process. Like
Yeah.
the way he explained it was like the analogy was like your LDL and like your cholesterol. It's like a freaking city, and like your
Yeah.
LDL and your cholesterol are like buses, and it's just like
Yeah,
it's constantly moving
LDL
through your
is because
system.
LDL is not cholesterol itself. It's what carries cholesterol from,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe it's from the liver to the bloodstream into tissues, right? So LDL is actually in healthy populations protective. Like if you look at studies with like there's a study with Sardinian centenarians, right? So Sardinia is one of the blue zones, right? So very healthy people. And they actually found in the study that the Sardinians that had higher LDL, like above like 130 LDL, they actually live longer than those with lower LDL. So it's actually interesting that you kind of see the pattern reverse when it comes to LDL being associated with bad health outcomes when you look at when you look at healthy populations rather than unhealthy populations. Because I think like Joey said, it's like the main problem isn't that LDL is inherently bad. It's just that when it comes with inflammation, bad metabolic health, that's when LDL starts becoming a problem. But the what we need to fix is not trying to lower the LDL. It's trying to lower the inflammation and make a good context for the LDL to be in.
Yeah, I think like picking up on the quality of foods that you're eating and like being conscious about that's like probably the biggest action step someone can take.
I
Like you're
guess
not
another big one here
very fun.
is saturated fat is more oxidatively stable as well. We can talk about in terms of like you look at like Steak and Shake. I'm pretty proud that they're actually going to fully grass-fed beef and in the
I saw
fryer,
that.
and like they're just that's another great example of like seed oils are terrible because they oxidize, and I forgot the name, but it was like hexane, I believe. It's a super long word, but that gets created when you over and over just heat seed oils up in the fryer.
I think it's heterocyclic amines.
Oh, really? Yeah, I
It's a
remember
complicated word.
Santa Cruz talked about a dude that he was like a neurosurgeon, did a something like that. But yeah, they're so much stable because they don't have the double bonds like polyunsaturated fat do. So I think it just shows that um, saturated fat's more stable. It's stable at room temperature. That's kind of like it's kind of cool that like they're stable in terms of like uh, molecularly and like in room temperature. So it shows that like this fat is actually. I think that's super appealing to me, right? The fact that it's not some like oil that's like been deodorized and bleached like seed oils, and they're this high golden color to try to get you to go and buy it. You look at saturated fat, it's like a saturated fat. It's stable at room temperature. That's the type of fat you want to be having. Like, it just makes sense. And yeah,
It's the fat that we've been having for like literally our entire existence.
yeah, for sure. And your body in like fat is so important. It's the most calorically dense macronutrient per gram. And I think it's a fallacy or a psyop to believe that you can have this evolutionarily inconsistent amount of omega 6 fatty acids and be healthy. It doesn't make any sense. There's so much literature showing that saturated fat is the baseline. You have to have that. And when you don't have that, everything comes downhill. You can have all the nutrients in the world, and you can make a Beyond Burger with all these synthetic nutrients that you say you can get in animal foods, even though you're not getting creatine, carnitine, anserine, taurine. Like all those nutrients are found abundantly in animal foods and not in plant foods. And I think you just start to come to realize that, okay, LDL, sure, when you have a higher rate LDL, yes, you could develop cardiovascular disease, yes, but it's not what causes it. And I think you start realizing that all these foods that contain saturated fat are the most nutritious, and they give us the most bang for the buck. So like, I think it just makes sense, and I think we need to get this ideology out of our head that high LDL, you're gonna get cardiovascular disease. So
Yeah. Angel Keys, I don't know if you guys are aware of that name, is like the whole reason like this is even like a thing.
yeah,
I can't like cite exactly what he said in his study because I've like read a little bit about it,
yeah,
but I just know like he basically like feared the entire world of saturated fat
he's a
in
goofy.
eggs and cholesterol specifically. But
Yeah, he's a goofy. That's what he is, bro.
I, I think I think the world is making like a slighter change, and they're kind of understanding that.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's really not many. Not that this matters like that much, but like there's not that many health. I feel like there's a lot more health influencers and just people in general posting more health oriented content that are actually like giving better advice than just like eat an apple, eat broccoli. Because when I'm sitting here in December eating that, it's not going to help me at all. Like,
I guess.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Sorry. No, you're good.
Yeah, okay. I think people that independently study nutrition have the right idea, and I think that kind of comes from them being like decentralized, using their own common sense, you know.
Yeah.
But I think the big problem is that the mainstream institution, like doctors working for centralized medicine, the big problem is that they still believe all of the myths about LDL, all of the myths about cholesterol. Like 99% of them do, right? So I think I think that until we get until we get the mainstream on the same page, like the mainstream doctors and stuff like that, then like we're still like at a losing battle, I would say.
Yeah, and it's like hard to do certain studies that like would make a specific outcome to say, all right, you know what, saturated fat doesn't cause heart attack. Because like you can find a study that pretty much goes against any argument. Like you could probably find a study saying seed oils are healthy somehow, and then you could probably find a
Yeah,
study
that's
saying
that's what a lot of people. That's what some people do online.
yeah, and it's annoying. So like
Yeah.
I also think for doctors and like when it comes to people posting on social media, a lot of people have built the following or just like their practice off of this certain information that they've been taught, and like whether how many followers they have or how many like patients they have or what status they have at their job, like it's going to be hard to like take a 180 and just completely change your stance. Because I know a lot of people that like think seed oils and like saturated fat, they should watch the red meat, they should watch the eggs and all that stuff because it's bad for your cholesterol. But like you can debunk that, and then like I just don't think people are going to be proud enough to like completely do a 180 on their like whole practice and just say, you know what, I was wrong. I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of people are going to do that.
For sure.
So-
And I think when you start thinking about it, people have been becoming a little bit more open to this. Like, doctors are promoting eggs as a health food now. Or if you go look at the new dietary food pyramid, they're starting to slowly start shifting this way. They never will fully, but I think they're starting to realize a little bit that they kind of messed up. It's not like the single driver for everything, cholesterol and saturated fat and high LDL, and I think it all comes down to food quality over quantity, quality over quantity any day. I'll take that in every scenario, because quality friends are going to be quality or better than 10 friends that you don't really even care about, right? Like being
Yeah.
able to have 10 people that don't really care about you, but they'll still talk to you. Like it's good to think like in terms of like, okay, like I like to make it like relationships there. It's like, okay, yeah, you would rather have 2 really loyal friends than 10 not very loyal friends. And it's the same thing when you kind of look at like something like seed oils versus saturated fat. It's like you start making these assumptions. Sorry, that was a little bit of a weird correlation, but it makes sense. It's like quality over quantity any day, and it shows proof in the pudding. You look at people online, they're doing these things, and people like to push away anecdotes. I want to have a study for everything. Well, congrats, you can't have a study for everything. You really can't. And the only way for you to really know is to do it yourself, because you are your own greatest study, and I'm sure you guys would both agree with that. It's like, and I think lastly here before we like kind of end this off is like I think we all should just kind of talk about like why we did this, why we got into like our nutrition arc, and why we did this. So for me personally, the reason I started doing nutrition, and guys, fats, which is the whole reason for this podcast, guys, is it's a hard and diverse topic. Like we're still learning. We're all still learning. It's like I'm trying to intake as much knowledge every day that I can to present an argument to somebody that has 20,000 studies under their belt. But we won't know till the future when we start getting these more studies out. But I know it's true. I know you can look at some rat studies. But the whole reason I started getting into nutrition, guys, is for the simple reason that like I wanted to be a healthier individual, and I wanted to get like my own little, like, I guess you could say, like, high from getting all the nutrition. I kind of got that. Like I get this like non-brain fog, like I get natural dopamine. I get outside constantly. I try to move around, and that gives me like that internal like high of me knowing that I'm doing what I need to be doing and I'm not being a loser. So also surgeries, I have cystic fibrosis, a chronic disease. So like I battled through these things my entire life. Like I've had 3 surgeries in the past 4 years, and like I know what it takes to get back to your full potential, because like I know what it takes, and I've understood that like when you dial in every little aspect and you start getting super like driven, you can see all these benefits, and you reek benefits. So that's like the whole reason I started an animal-based diet, because I wanted to live like we're supposed to live. I wanted to honor God. I wanted to honor the world that He put us in, and I wanted to stay away from all the ultra-processed foods that are not going to give me any of those benefits. So and wreak havoc. So that's the whole reason I started. If you guys want to share your guys' as well.
Yeah, I'll go next real quick. The main thing that kind of like started it off for me for nutrition wise is because I think like 3 years before I took like nutrition seriously, like I had really bad acne. Like it was just so bad. It always comes back like in the winter, and it would just piss me off. And at the time, I was unfortunately like a really big drinker and a smoker, and my day to day life literally felt like the perfect word is brain fog. And I feel like not a lot of people actually know what that is. Like you feel cloudy and you just feel like a zombie, and it's literally, if you've ever smoked before, it's like that. Like you don't feel like you're actually like living, and it sucks. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And like I would go to the gym. I've always been like an active person, and it's like you can't even enjoy that because you just feel like drowsy. You feel like a zombie. You feel tired. So like I wanted to just like enjoy my day to day life, and now cleaning up your diet, eating foods that are like local, seasonal, tailored to your environment has tremendously helped like every single aspect, especially like with my acne. I'd say the main reason like why I'm even into nutrition is because my acne used to be like terrible. And actually I had like a 2 month phase this winter where like came back again. And I don't want to like go into this too deeply, but it was like for a different reason. Like it was because like I'm eating all this sugar in an environment where it's like snowing out every day. It's like cold out. I'm not getting any like sun exposure. So like I'm just always trying to figure out like how can I enjoy my day-to-day life? Because I was still eating nutrient-dense foods and I'm still eating clean and I feel great, but my skin looks like crap and it affects my mental health. And that's just like a completely whole different thing. So it's like skin health is like the main reason why I choose to like eat clean, and I'll probably never go back. And then on top of that, like I was saying before, just to enjoy your day-to-day life. Like you want to be able to just like live and like be able to like I can go on a freaking run right now because the foods I'm eating just assist my like mitochondria, brain, energy production, all that stuff. And it's just like I'm never gonna go back to eating shitty food, and because of my skin.
Hell yeah, bro.
But that's like the main reason.
Right. So I'll go on now. I think the main reason for me is just seeing like changes in my day to day life as I started going more in like deep into health. I would say I started when I was like 14, like just looking at like Santa Cruz and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, let me try some of these things. And then I just kind of like slowly started trying each thing, like cutting out sugar, eating more whole foods. Then I got to eating more animal based, raw meat, raw organs, local and seasonal, all these things. Like I kept going deeper and deeper, and the more deep that I got, the better I felt. So it was kind of a positive feedback loop. And I think that's kind of what got me into health. And I think that starting my TikTok also made me go deeper into health because it made me become more like interested in the subject. So yeah, that's personally what got me into it.
Hell yeah.
One more thing I think for everyone listening to, like Joe, you said this earlier, like your greatest antidote, I think is what you said. Like just test things out for yourself. Like I didn't know I was gonna like specific foods, but like you just got to try it and see how you feel. And I guarantee you that you'll feel better if you choose to eat like more healthy or animal based. Because I know a lot of people like don't think of it that seriously, and they're like sort of like scared to even try it. So
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I promise it'll work out.
Really, really, to finalize this whole podcast, guys, I advise you guys for the next 2 months or a month to cut out all seed oils, all processed foods, have butter, beef tallow, ghee, maybe some coconut oil every here and there, and eat those foods and see how you feel and see how your body composition changes. Maybe you want to go get a visceral adipose tissue test to see how that's doing and try to see what it looks like 2 months later. Try these things and do these things because, like Dom said and restated, you are your own greatest study. So take advantage of that and do an elimination diet. It's very beneficial for a lot of people. So as always, guys, I mean, if you guys ever have any questions, I'm sure they would say the same thing. DM them, ask them some questions. And Enzo, you want to say anything to finish out the pod?
Yeah, I think you know, really you have to look at this from like a cost benefit perspective, right? Because a lot of people I see my age, they just don't care about health. They're like, "Oh, how bad can this be?" But just know that like if if you just kind of like default and I guess like go with the flow in modern society, that's gonna lead to your despair because everything's kind of like set up against people nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And I think you have to realize that you want to feel good day to day. You want to be able to be active with your kids. Live a good life, live a long life, be able to travel, be able to do everything that you want to do for the longest amount of time. Like really enjoy this life. So I think that you kind of need to see that health should be your utmost priority, and then just start slow, right? So just start like I kind of like I did, right? Start cutting out sugar, start implementing more whole foods like that, right? And then you kind of see these changes on yourself, and just start kind of getting into it through like the positive feedback loop. And I think that's a great way to start.
100%.